Welcome to the Hershey Podcast. This is Brandon.
In January.
We are back.
Again.
Isn't
there a song like that from the 80s or 90s?
Probably. I'm
not ringing any bells.
Yeah, my mind's not there, so I might be having a brain fart.
I know. I just pulled that one out of left field.
Yeah, you did.
That's all right. That's how my brain works.
We didn't discuss that in our very long pre-show meeting.
Which has never happened before once in the history of this podcast.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. We don't have pre-show meetings.
Well, you're the one that said earlier today that my mind thinks in very abstract ways. So there you go.
You turn on the record button or give you a mic and you just go and it's awesome.
Well,
as anyone who has been to any of your events can attest.
I'm just speaking from my heart. That's all it is.
It's very awesome.
Yeah. Well, today's podcast episode is brought to you by Rooted Apothecary.
Yes, indeed.
Did that sound formal enough, not abstract?
I thought it was a very natural segue.
Oh, man. So what is your favorite thing about Rooted Apothecary?
The quality of their CBD oil.
Yeah.
It's really solid, actually.
Mm-hmm. And they grow it in Colorado, correct?
Yeah, they grow it at an organic farm in Colorado, and they use a CO2 extraction process to make sure we're getting all the phytocannabinoids that Mother Nature intended.
That was super abstract. And the thing about we've tried a few different CBD oils, and the thing about the quality is you can tell rather quickly if it's a high quality, and they have third-party testing, gluten-free, vegan, all those things matter to me as well. CBD oil has become part of our self-care.
Yeah.
Which, here's a segue for you, is what we're going to be talking about today. So it's perfect that Rooted Apothecary is sponsoring today's episode. And if you want to try out any of their products, go to rootedapoth.com. You can use code LOVE10 and get 10% off and try any of their products. And Brandon will put everything in the show notes afterwards if you want to check that out. And
yes. LOVE10, all one word, lowercase.
Yeah. So I am going to segue into our episode today because it is the perfect topic for this. And that is, I want to get really fucking real about self-care. I don't want to play little on this anymore. I've done a lot of posts about self-care, a lot of talks about self-care, a lot of quotes about self-care. And lately I've been asking people to even just take 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So many of us tell ourselves in our actions or even our non-actions that we are not even worth 5 minutes. Many of us find that we make breakfast for our kids, we clean up, we get kids to school, or we go to work, or whatever your daily routine looks like. And then you get to lunchtime and you realize you never even ate breakfast. Like, you're telling yourself you're not even worth 5 minutes to make breakfast along with your kids or before you go into work to show up for your boss and your job. So I've been begging people to even just take 5 minutes to pee first thing in the morning before you get on your social media apps, to get yourself breakfast or coffee or tea or whatever it is, your smoothie, your acai bowl. I don't give a shit. But whatever it is, before you're checking your emails. And you know what? It's just not good enough anymore, you guys. That's not good enough. That's still plain small. And quite frankly, I think it's fucking bullshit. And I can say that from experience. I have recently called myself out on this. I'm continuing to call myself out on this. Brandon's nodding his head, yes.
Yes, I am nodding.
And I'm going to call you out on it for those of you that are listening. You are making excuses as to why you can't even take 5 minutes to yourself. And I'm going to tell you that that's not even good enough. So stop making excuses. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. So I'll share with you my recent epiphanies on this. And maybe it'll inspire you or get through to some of you. As many of you know, especially listen to the podcast, that we've had quite a wild ride the last few years. And this year has been a much better year for us. We still have things. We still have complications, crappy things we have to take care of or whatnot. But overall, this year has been better for us. And I have made it a point to enjoy my trips more this year, to not complain about them, to have a positive attitude, to have really intriguing conversations with strangers, to when I'm traveling, like at the airport or flying or hotels, to connect with people, via the Birth That Fear book, which has been amazing conversations this year. And then when I get somewhere, to eat well, to rest, to show up for myself as well. And when I was in Australia, which I've talked about quite a bit because it was such a wonderful, amazing trip, and you can go back a few episodes and listen to that if you haven't already. When I was in Australia, I really stepped up my self-care game while I was there because I knew that I was going to have 2 weeks where I didn't have to worry about honestly what you wanted to do that day, because when you're with somebody every single day, it's like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Right.
Right. Exactly.
And I didn't have 6 kids who not only would be asking me questions all day long, but they have needs and they need their mom for whatever it is, whether it's homeschooling or hormones or anxiety. And I was not going to have that for 2 weeks. So I knew it was such a good opportunity for me to get real on taking care of myself and my body. Because, I have felt since having the bull 8 years ago that my body has not recovered. And I'm sure many of you listening understand what I'm saying. I did receive some spa treatments. I got a facial. I had a few massages, which was very interesting because a lot came up in those massages with the women and the healers that were doing those massages on me. And I realized why I was there, and I rested a lot and I ate good food. I slept, and I realized why I was there that the amount of self-care I've been doing, that 5 minutes I'm asking everyone to do, that taking care of yourself before looking at your phone, is not fucking cutting it. It's not at all.
Not at all.
He's shaking his head, you guys. Not at all. And so
I echo all your sentiments, by the way.
Yeah.
Just so people know.
Yeah.
And I agree, 5 minutes a day, that's nothing. I mean, that is ridiculous. Like, we need to take
and
more
most
time.
of us aren't even doing that.
Yeah, I mean, how many of us, I've been there myself, you oversleep past your alarm and you're running late and you have to get yourself ready real quick to head off to work or school.
Drop
if
your
you're
kids off at school.
You're still in school,
right.
And then you're going through your day, and then lunch comes and you're like you said, you haven't eaten breakfast, so you're starving, so you overeat at lunch, and then your afternoon at work or school, you're tired, and you get home and you're cranky, and everyone needs you, and it's just the same old.
And for some of us, that's when we turn to alcohol and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So that, at
all
least
sorts of vices,
I used to, and I was starting to turn to alcohol every day, and then I realized that was a problem and I stopped. But yeah, that's basically many of our lives, especially in countries like America. So, so when I got home, I had a much higher priority of self-care. And again, I've been better about it since I haven't maybe ever been. And every trip I take, I'm like, what can I do for myself on this trip? Whether that's, get extra sleep, eat good food, get a tattoo, that's healing for me. Things like that. I hit a wall a few weeks ago. I hit a full-on wall. I got really depressed. I started coming down from just the high of like some of these amazing trips and the book release and all this stuff. And I started pulling away the last week or two, like kind of wanting to hide from everyone and everything, and just really inside panicking. On the outside, it came off as just being really depressed and down and not wanting to work anymore. And I remember a few things that have been said to me over the last few months. The first is Dr. Danielle, who I've tagged on Instagram. When her and I met in Australia, she said to me, now that you're tapping back into your potential and your power, it's going to come fast, and it's okay to ask it to slow down. So it's okay to say, okay, hold on, like pause. Pausing's okay, right? We need to not quit or stop, but we can pause. Another thing is that Angela Gallo, she constantly is telling me that my voice needs to be heard, that what I'm doing is too important for me to quit, that it's okay to pull back and refocus, but not to quit, right? And that I have so much in me that I actually can keep showing up. I can keep moving forward. And then when I was in Portland, Shantae, she's got found on Instagram. She did some energy work on me, actually. The afternoon of the event while everyone was doing their harmony circles, she brought like her big fucking rocks and crystals in a suitcase, and like her sage, and like she kept like lighting stuff, and she's like, should we just whatever, like we're in a hotel, and like employees kept walking by and just like looking at us because she had me in this chair with crystals all around me and was literally doing energy work on my mind, my body. Like I was pulling energy from Mother Earth, like the roots down of Mother Earth, and letting things go. And she like gave me really incredible insight into me and past lives, and it was just really rad. It was amazing. It was actually healing. I let go of some trauma that I had been holding on to during that session, and she's fantastic. So look her up. But she told me to make sure I'm getting outside every single day for at least 5 minutes and putting my feet in the grass, right? Because that balances your root chakra. You've told me this before too.
Mm-hmm.
But important. She called my ass out. So she was doing work on me, and she was like, are you like doing yoga? And I was like, no, Brandon's been telling me I should do it for 20 years, which is true, right? I remember you telling me this. You need to actually say yes.
Yes,
I have not just shake your head. People can't hear you nod your head.
Yes, yeah. I have been saying this for 20 years. I'm still actually saying it because you have yet to try a downward dog or cobra
I
or
have
lotus.
the corpse pose down. I am an expert. I am a yogi master in the corpse pose. Okay, I know. So she asked me about that. She asked me a few other things, and then she was like, she's like, the space you're holding for people, and as regularly and often as you are, it is really intense. She's like, you have to find ways to release it, whether it's through therapy, yoga. And she's like, have you had any massages? And I was so proud of myself. I was like, well, actually, yes. When I was in Australia, I had 3 massages. And she said, I was like, really, really like, just patting myself on the back. Like, yeah, like I'm awesome. My self-care game has I've leveled up. And she asked me, she goes, so when was that? I said, well, a few months ago. She goes, uh-huh. And then you flew back across the world in airplane? And I said, well, yeah. And she's like, and how many events have you done since then? Just less than 2 months ago? And I'm like, well, I've done 8 events. And she's like, and have you had any body work done since then? And I was like, no. She's like, not enough. And I was like, whoa, mind blown. And I stepped back and I realized when I was in Australia, I did say to myself, when I get home, my new hobby is going to be self-care. Like I need to do some kind of treatment.
You did say that.
I did. Some kind of treatment or therapy or something at least once a week minimum, plus regular daily self-care. And I thought I was doing that, but I wasn't. And it's amazing what we think we're doing, but we're really not doing it when you step back or you write it down or, you really look at it. And she did. She called me out. And so I got home from Portland, super exhausted, and was still feeling like just burnout and done and whatnot. And I was sitting in our kitchen on Monday. And I was like, okay, so how many more days am I going to let myself feel like this? How many more days am I going to think I should do this. I should schedule that. I should try this thing I want to try. I should go get a massage. I should. And shoulds don't get you fuck all nothing. It gets you nothing. You don't get anywhere with a should, so either
should is shit.
Should is shit. So, yeah, that should be the moral of this whole podcast.
There's the title of the podcast.
Should is shit. So I looked up a place that was close by and I called them up on Monday on Memorial Day and I booked myself a massage and a facial for this week because I will spend money on everyone else. I spend time on everyone else. And then I'm like, oh, I can't spend that money on myself. And I'm constantly talking about this with people and I needed to check myself, because I'm not doing that. And so I stepped back and thought about how much output I'm really giving. You guys step back and think about it right now. I want you to, whether you're driving your car, you're doing your laundry, you're going for a walk, you're grocery shopping right now, listening to this podcast, hearing my voice, asking you, if you really step back and think about the output you are giving every single fucking day, every week, what does that look like? How much is that? How much output of energy are you giving to your life, your responsibilities, the people that you have around you that you're taking care of or helping? How much output are you giving? I don't even know how to tell you to measure that or quantify that, but just think about it in an abstract way if you can, or if you don't have an abstract mind, find a way to think about what size bucket that would be of output. Think of what my bucket would be as big as our bedroom. And we have a big bedroom. Yeah. Right? Yeah. The amount that I put out on a regular basis is massive. And then I want you to think about what size bucket of input you're doing. What size is the bucket of self-care, of filling your cup, of input of positive, good, healing energy are you putting into your life on a regular basis? I'm pretty sure for most of you, those buckets are not the same size.
Those buckets are probably more like thimbles.
I was going to say, you probably have a massive bucket of output and a fucking thimble
of input.
Of input. And you wonder why you are burnt out, resentful, your body's falling apart, your mental health is falling apart, you have anxiety, you have all these things because the ratio is so disgustingly different. Enough is enough. I want my input bucket to be at least as big as my output bucket, if not bigger, right? Like imagine if it was bigger, how much creativity I would have, how much energy I would have, how much space I would have for creating, right?
Right.
My buckets are not the same. And it is going to take a mindfulness and a conscious effort, right? To make my input bucket the same as my output bucket. Same for you guys that are listening. And that's going to look different for everyone. I did a post today. I shared a post that I found on somebody else's Instagram and did a write-up with it about how 1 hour of your day is like 5% of your day. And are you not worth 5% of your day to refill your bucket? Like if you don't even think that you can refill your bucket for 5% of your day, what are you even doing? And don't tell me you can't. I understand. I get it. I know how hard this is. I've been there where I've had no extra time, no money, no anything. But we have to find, like maybe for you, because you have no money or you can't go out or you don't have anyone to take the kids, that you going to bed an extra hour early so you can hours sleep because sleep is fucking self-care.
Yeah, it is.
Or maybe so whatever it is for you, it might be therapy. It might be, an extra hour in the morning before everybody else wakes up. It might, and another thing too, like if you're spending 3 hours a day on fucking Instagram, you have a goddamn hour to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to call that shit out right now. That's bullshit. Like your phones now tell you how much screen time you're having a day. It is.
They do.
It's like, seriously, it's like a full on bitch slap.
Mine tells me I play too much Toy Blast.
Exactly. So if I have an hour for Toy Blast, I have an hour. And I know some of you are like, well, that is self-care. No,
it's not.
No, it's really not. Like you're not being creative. You're not healing anything within yourself. You're not.
It's instead of mindfulness, it's mindlessness.
Exactly. And that's two different things, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. So we're talking about at least an hour of mindfulness. Not mindless self-care and input going into your input bucket. All right. So that is something that I'm working on right now. I'm calling myself out on my own bullshit on how little my input and my self-care and my self-love really is compared to my output, because it is seriously messing with my mind and my whole life. And I know it is for some of you guys too, because, okay, let me give you an example right now. Right now I'm traveling on average every 10 days. And when I'm traveling, I'm flying far in airplanes, which my body does not like anymore. I am holding space for a lot of like high energy trauma, like big things, right? And big topics. Right. And then I come home to my family, right? And that you don't get time off from your kids, unless you actually schedule and take it, which we actually just did. We had a night away last weekend. It was lovely. It was awesome. Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about right there. We haven't done that in over a year. And we took a night. Yes. Last weekend together, slept in, got good sleep, had a lot of naked cardio time. We had really good food, great conversation. Like that, like really like made our input bucket like grow exponentially, right? It did. Mm-hmm. I was having some, I guess I would say some certain anxiety issues that week, actually. Certain things that were bothering me, and that night away actually helped me reset. I finally got a good night of sleep. I hadn't slept very well that week. And so that was Friday that we did that. And this is 5 days later by the time this podcast comes out. And honestly, we could have done that any time the last year. We just hadn't asked the family member we trust to stay with the kids until just recently. What's the whole point of moving back home, technically, if we can't, like, you have to ask. You can't just think in your head. You have to have the conversation out loud with your people, right? So I'm traveling about every 10 days. I'm holding space for people. I'm flying lots of flights. This weekend I'll have 4 flights. I'm flying to Saskatoon, Canada this weekend, and then I come home, and then next Thursday I fly to Austin for the Born Into This conference that Doula Training International is putting on. So I'm traveling a lot. I'm holding space for people. I'm giving my whole heart and soul. Like, this is what I'm meant to do right now. And then I come home and I beat myself up every day if I'm not working. I have this own self-imposed expectations, this own self-imposed self-sabotaging that I do. I have a self-sabotaging roller coaster I do. We all do. This is part of mine, not all of it, but part of it. And then I feel frustrated that work is taking me from my kids and my downtime. And then it becomes this vicious cycle for me where then I don't even want to work because look what it's taking from me. And I realized just recently, and by recently, I mean like this morning, as I decided to put my phone down, go outside with Brandon and the kids, do slip and slide, have conversations, have good coffee. You know, I made everyone breakfast. I made everyone lunch, which I enjoy doing, and just hanging out with everyone and having a really good day. And I realized that the whole time I was like this pit in my stomach that I should be working, that I was missing something, that something was going to literally fall through the cracks, that the other shoe was going to drop. If I just spend time with my fucking family, if I just spend time with my kids and be a mother, which I am a mom first and always, that's ridiculous. That's not okay.
And not only that, but being a mother, being a parent is work.
Yeah, it is.
You know, 7 a.m. to about 11 p.m. for us every day.
It is. But to me, like, it doesn't have to feel like work for me personally at this point with the older kids. And
no, it doesn't.
But you're right. I mean, it's like, you know, it's not rest time for sure. It's constant. But like, I want that. And I enjoy that. I enjoy that time with them. I don't take it for granted anymore. And so I sat back today and I realized I'm traveling every 10 days. The day before I'm preparing for my trip. The day after I'm trying to recover from it. So now I have 8 days in between traveling, and none of those days, barely ever, am I going out for the day and getting a treatment or doing something for myself. Am I just sitting with my kids all day long? Like, I'm always distracted. I'm always thinking I need to check my emails. I'm always thinking I'm going to miss something. I'm always thinking somebody's going to be upset with me. I'm always this expectation that I need to be checking in with everything every single day. And for good reason, because there have been many years and many times where other people have the expectation of me to be available to them 24/7. And the only person that can set that boundary is me.
That is true.
Right. But part of setting that boundary is stepping back and understanding my self-worth and understanding that it's okay for me to fill my bucket of input just as much as I'm giving in my output bucket. And I don't think I've actually ever have made sure that those buckets are at least the same. And I'm going to now. It's okay for me to have on those 8 days in between 2 days where you and I get a lot of work done. When Brandon and I sit down and work together for a couple hours, it's like triple the amount of maybe hours of work anyone else would get done. Like
we are just very efficient at our work
when we do.
Very fast learners, and we get a lot done in a very short amount of time.
So now that I'm thinking about this, like we've had a conversation about those boundaries, about the level of self-care, at least I know I need now. And I'm still figuring that out, what that will look like for me. And it will change like day by day, week by week. But you know, also like, okay, if I have one day a week when I get home or when I'm home where I just really get all those things done, I decide what posts I'm doing that week. I check in on my emails. I check in to see if there's anything that an event needs, that it's okay then for me to take another day to take care of myself, maybe get a massage or, you know, finally do yoga. I don't know. I'm not going to commit to that. Don't even hold me accountable to that. I'm not committing.
You know, we could do naked yoga.
That's a whole different thing.
Just putting that out there.
Okay. You've piqued my interest. And then the other, that leaves another 2 or 3 days a week that I can just focus on my kids. And honestly, when I say that out loud, that's like, really, that's it. They do get me all the time. But I think I need to see that perspective of it's okay for me to take that time.
Yeah.
It's okay for me to do that. And when we're not being aware, we're not being self-aware, we're not opening our eyes to the reality of what our situation looks like, or our weeks look like, or our days look like, we just get lost in the fucking shuffle. And then you see some self-care post on Instagram and you're like, fuck you, lady. Like, when am I going to find an hour of time? Well, you're not, because you're not actually looking at how you're spending your time.
Yeah. It's all about time management. And that's actually something that I've always been really strong at. And there are ways of altering your schedules to fit in things. Mm-hmm. For me, I had to really do this hardcore when I was in chiropractic school, because, you know, you're in school for 35 hours a week, and then there's also the outpatient clinic when you get a little bit more advanced in school, and then studying, and then, you know, we had a family while I was in school, so I was pretty busy, so I had to be really precise with my time. And if one day I felt like I really needed to work out or take some time to myself and my schedule allowed for it, I would just skip a class and go and do that, go work out.
And not feel guilty for
right.
skipping the class.
I wouldn't skip the class that I needed to be there for to learn, vital information or take a test or something like that. Obviously, I would figure out which one I could, stand to miss. And I'm not saying everyone should skip their classes all the time.
Okay, you can stop clarifying it. People understand what you're trying to say.
Well, I know some people,
you sound like me right now where I try to clarify everything.
Sometimes people find things to get offended about. So
I don't think anyone's going to get offended over you skipping a class.
I don't want to,
many years
class
ago.
skip shame people.
And we have officially derailed.
No, my point is you can find time.
Yeah.
Like you literally can.
Yeah.
And like you said, there really isn't an excuse. Mm-hmm. Another point I want to make too is that most of the things we do in our life with work or a lot of what we do as parents, there's a lot of left brain activity going on. There's, we have to worry about paying bills and finances and, like I said, work and things like that. You're doing a lot of analytical things. And so maybe self-care, part of that self-care can be taking up a creative hobby or activity or something like that to really start getting the right brain activated a little. Because I think a lot of us, I know for a number of years, well over a decade, I pretty much had my whole right brain shut down when I was in school and practicing full time. And I was always a creative kid. And recently I've really tapped into that creativity big time and realized what I was missing by having that shut down, by just being very left brain dominant. And that's something that could help a lot of people as well, make you feel like, oh, there's something worth living for. I do have time to do things, and I have this talent that I didn't know I had, and it definitely pays off to be creative. And
it does. And I was just telling you, I had another epiphany that the more I take care of myself, the more I actually do things or spend money on myself, the more I show up for work and the more creative I get and the more...
Exactly.
Yeah, the more I do with that. Whereas when I don't take care of myself or I don't spend any money on myself, I start shutting down and don't want to work at all. So, the abundance mindset has to be all around, including abundantly taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
You can't try to have an abundant mindset financially or anywhere else, and then there's a lack mindset when it comes to taking care of yourself. They do not go hand in hand together. They can't.
They don't. And that saying, work hard and play hard, there is something to it, because what is the point in working hard if you are not going to play just as hard?
Right.
Like you have to find things that really light a fire under your ass to motivate you to want to work that hard.
And I haven't had that in a long time.
Right.
Like I mean, yeah, I definitely feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, but like for me, that's one part of who I am, right? Like people tend to, I'm not comparing myself to celebrities. Brian and I talk about this all the time. I do not consider myself anywhere near any of that, but people will look at a celebrity and then they just put them in that box, right? And we tend to put ourselves in boxes, whatever you're doing, whatever your job is, your career is, or if you're a stay-at-home parent, like we put ourselves in that box, and it's like, that's not the only, that's not all of you. That's a part of you. That's a part of what you're doing. So there's so much more to me. And that's the part I've been figuring out, is what else does January like to do now? What else is she into? What else do I want to learn? Those kind of things. So another thing I wanted to say too, is if you're listening to this right now and you've gotten this far and you're still thinking, I don't have the time, I don't have the energy, I don't have the money, I don't have the support, I want to ask you, what would you say to your son or daughter if they said the same thing to you? Mom, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I have the support, I can't take care of myself. Bullshit. And no. And how can I help you? You need to say that to yourself. Bullshit. No. How can I help you? Because you are worth the time and the energy just the same as anybody else that you love or you care about, right?
Exactly.
That's one of the things
Absolutely.
that I do when I'm like, what would I say if my daughter was saying this about her body? Or what would I say if my son was saying that he wasn't worth an hour of time, or he didn't have time for, to care for himself? Like, what would I feel and what would I say if that was my children saying or thinking what I'm saying or thinking? And it really starts to, shift my perspective a little bit, to step back and really start reevaluating where I truly am putting my time and energy. So I just hope that I've had this on my heart and on my mind. I really wanted to get it out onto an episode. And I think that we all need to be thinking about our output and our input with those buckets, and really, as often as you need to put yourself in check with that. Like, wait a minute, how big is my output bucket today and my input bucket, or this week? How big is my output bucket? How big or small is my input bucket? And act accordingly. Act accordingly to that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's what I have to say today.
It's good stuff.
All right, you guys. So I will be in Saskatoon this weekend. If you're anywhere near there, there's a few tickets left. Then I go to Austin for the Born Into This conference. And then I can't remember. So check out cities and dates at bwfconference.com. And if you haven't yet, get the Birth Out for Your book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, basically anywhere books are sold. And
leave a review.
Leave a review.
On Amazon.
Please.
And Barnes & Noble if you want.
Yeah, I would appreciate it. People ask me sometimes what they can do in return for how much I give. And that's really the biggest thing that you could do right now. So I really, really appreciate it. And I love you guys. Until next time.
Adios.
Love you.